And anytime he goes somewhere, he just calls his pilot, gets on his jet, and boom, he takes off.
Don, thanks for so much for coming on today. I'm looking forward to the conversation. So when we started this out, we wanted it to be kind of like a home service focus, but also the M&A space on both sides. And you just so happen to be kind of the intersection of all three. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. For people who haven't met you yet, tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe some of your background, the business you started. Give us a little taste.
Okay, well, my background really didn't start out in in home services or M&A or anything like that. I started out as a service tech in the IT industry,
Hmm.
and I went to DeVry Institute of Technology and got a degree there in just an associate's degree in digital electronics, and I was a bench tech. And as I was doing that, my mother was a real estate agent, and she was buying and selling houses, and you know how real estate agents are so busy all the time. And that was early on, and she convinced me to buy a house. Actually, it was a duplex, and I did the old scenario where I had a roommate. This is when I was single. I had a roommate, which was my brother, and I rented out the other side. So I was living, dirt cheap. I did a lot of traveling for my job and things like that, and that's how I got started in real estate. Is just my mother.
Mm-hmm.
She kept finding me deals. That was back in the mid '80s, and I'm dating myself a little bit there, but she would find me these deals in Atlanta, and I would buy them, and I would fix them up and keep them for a year or two. Sometimes I'd sell them, but it was easy. I mean, it really became easy, especially with someone finding properties for me.
Yeah.
So she was instrumental,
Was
and
she
I
a
think she
partner, or she would just, just mother
no
helping
she,
her son out?
yeah she would she kept telling me I should get into real estate,
Hmm.
and as an investor. She wasn't an investor, she was an agent. And I became her best customer over years of flipping houses and buying and whole that. I did dozens of houses with her. She would buy them, I'd fix them up, and then she would sell them. It was a really good arrangement. And found me. I got to tell you about this one house. She found me. It was now it's a pretty nice neighborhood, but at the time it was one of those emerging markets that was high crime,
Hmm.
really run down. And she found this house for me, and she said, it's $85,000. This was back in the early '90s. It was $85,000. She goes, fix it up, and you can sell it for 300,000. I'm like, what?
Nice.
There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way. I didn't believe her. And so I said, okay, she's my mother. She's not going to steer me wrong.
Right.
Did that, and it was almost exactly what she said. And at that point, I was a believer in real estate and flipping houses and all
Hmm.
that, because I had my regular job at the same time. I was doing that just for fun. I mean, I'd like to do things like that. I
Hmm.
was a do-it-yourselfer. I'd fix up the houses myself and learn how to do certain things I didn't know yet and things like that. That's how I learned, is on my own
Did
houses.
you do it like every aspect, or just like, do you have a crew for anything, or you did all of it?
Beginning, I did everything.
Wow.
I did the whole house, everything. And I'd learned that you can't do that long,
Hmm.
and
Well, you're
you can't
limited.
do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do one at
Doesn't
a
scale.
time, that
Right.
go crazy. So in the beginning, I was fortunate that I learned how to do things on my own properties.
Hmm.
That's one thing that's fortunate, because I wouldn't want to take chances on someone else's property, doing work for other people.
Hmm.
So later on, I got a license. I have a contractor's license for the state of Georgia, and I went through all that process. I got insurance. When you work on someone else's property, you need to have insurance,
Yeah.
and to be more legitimate. And in case something goes wrong, you're covered. So that's what I've evolved into, is having those credentials. And it's another funny story. When I first started, after doing it for maybe 10 years, I started getting into structural repairs, where I would come in, and I wasn't doing any advertising. I just people just kind of heard about me and would call me, and I would go visit them, and I was always busy. So I was doing structural repairs on houses, and at one point I was underneath this house and I was looking at the problems that it had, and I figured out how to fix it. And I went up into the lady's office in her house, and I went into her office. She had all these diplomas all over her wall, you know, license for this, university degree, and all these things. And she asked me if I had a license, and I said, "Well, no, I don't." At that point, I realized I need to get a license. That's where it clicked. Even though I was busy, I didn't want to have to say that I didn't have a license to someone in the future. So I started studying, and I studied for about a year to go before the board and take the test for the contractor's license. I passed the test. It was at that time it was 13 books that you had to know the answers to everything in the books. I think it was 600 questions.
Wow.
There was also a test on legal, the legalities of the business. So there were two tests. I passed both of them. I think that if I didn't study for a long time, I probably wouldn't have passed it. One of those things that you don't know what you don't know until it's too late. So I did a lot of studying, and that's how I got started in the business. And I've learned a lot of things, through trial and error, and making my own mistakes on my own properties. Not to say I made a lot of mistakes, but
Sure.
by that's how you learn a lot is by trying it and doing it. And that was before Google was around. Now you find, if you want to know something, you just Google it.
Yeah. Right on YouTube.
YouTube University.
And you got to trust the people and know that that they know what they're talking about, because anybody can throw something up.
Right.
But, they're credible, and that they know what they're talking about. But so that's kind of how I got started. Another thing that your listeners may want to know is kind of how to evolve from just flipping a house and actually becoming debt free. I think that's something a lot of people that want to do. And in the real estate side of things, what I did is, when I bought the duplex, I lived in it for a couple years, and then I found another house. I sold the duplex, moved into another house, and I moved the equity to the next house tax free, because you can do that.
Yeah, 1031.
Into the next one if you live in it. And shortly after that, I got married. I met my wife Jana. I got married, and I kept doing that. I did that 3 times in 3 years, and we packed all of our stuff up, moved to the next house. And every house that I bought needed work. It took a year or two to get it all settled and everything working. And actually, we did 3 quick ones in the first 3 years. And I asked her, I said, "Honey, I want to move one more time." And she's like, "No, I'm not moving again." Because 3 times in 3 years, it was a lot.
That is.
But I'll make a deal with you. I won't ask you to move for 5 years. And she's like, "Okay, that sounds fair, because 3 in 3 years, and now it's 1 in 5.
Right.
Sound like a
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so the moral of the story with that is we're still in the same house 28 years later. Had a big enough house that we were able to grow into it and start a family and things like that. So actually, I'm sitting in my office right now, which is a separate building on the house. We've got a regular house, and then behind it, there's a second house that I use for an office. And it works out really for us.
Easy commute, especially in Atlanta.
Yeah. It's about 100 feet.
Yeah. Important in Atlanta.
So if you do that enough times, if you buy a house smart, fix it up, and then sell it, move to another property, and you do that enough times, you'll have your house paid for.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we did.
Wow.
And what that allowed me to do was once I had my house paid for, I started using, I did an equity line on the house, and it was about 300,000 equity line. So I used that to buy houses. It's not as easy to do now as it was then,
Mm.
but I started buying houses with my equity line. I'd buy it, I'd fix it up, and then I'd refinance it, and I would keep using the money over and over. So I used my house to
That's the
for
bank.
finance. Yeah, that's the
Mm-hmm.
bank, and equity lines are the cheapest
Oh yeah.
money out there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's only now it's probably around 5%.
Yeah.
I think it was 2 or 3%, and that's the cheapest money out there that I know of. Versus, instead of you have a family member that gives you a zero interest loan.
Right. Yeah.
who, who has that?
Right.
So I did about 15 of those
Wow.
actually, just flipping the houses and being creative with the financing. I also did. I don't know if your readers or listeners are interested in the financing
For
side,
sure.
but I did quite a few 401k loans. I took the 401k that I had that I built up in my W-2 job.
Mm-hmm.
I moved it into a self-directed
Oh yeah. That's
IRA.
what I was going to ask. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a self-directed IRA, and then I started buying houses with that money.
Mm-hmm.
I had a couple 100,000 that built up, and I was using. There's a lot of restrictions and a lot of things that you have to be careful about to do it that way. So I wouldn't advise anybody. I'm not giving advice anyway, but I wouldn't advise anybody to do that on their own.
Mm-hmm.
You'd want to have a company that
Yeah.
specializes in
I take
that
it you have
because
a custodian that you work with that does that.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yes, you have to be at arm's length.
Yeah.
You can't touch the money. But if you abide by all those rules, it's really easy
Mm-hmm.
money because it's really free money. It's money that you already
Yeah.
have.
Do you take it out as a
You
loan,
sell the
or you take it out or make it an investment of the funds?
Yeah,
What?
yeah, you can do that. But what I did is I flipped them.
Mm-hmm.
What I would do is I'd buy a house, fix it up, and I had a checking account that I had a partner that was a financial partner.
Mm-hmm.
He would write the checks to pay for everything. So I'm arm's length. I didn't touch the money, and he would make all the payments, and then I'd sell the property back to the IRA, and all the money went back to the IRA. So it was increasing my IRA by how much money I made.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to keep any of the money, but it allows you to increase the value of your
Right.
IRA.
Tax deferred too.
So exactly,
Mm-hmm.
it's tax deferred money, so it builds up a lot faster. We're got some storms coming through Atlanta right now, so I hope the power stays on.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, it's getting pretty.
I can hear
You
it.
may
Yeah.
build it, but so that's what I used to do with and I still do that a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
not quite as much. What I do on the financial side now these days is I have private money
Mm-hmm.
investors that invest money, and they actually buy the property, and I give them a pretty decent rate of return, and I let the money accrue monthly, and then when I sell the property, I pay them through the closing. So that's the way I'm doing it these days.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I had 2008 when the market fell out. I had 8 properties that I was flipping. I was doing that full time at that time, and I had 6 private investors that all had money invested into all the houses, and they were all nervous. Everybody was nervous back then because people couldn't get loans for
Right.
anything, and so I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So I had to reinvent myself. And what I did is I approached each one of them and I just said, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to give your money back for a little while." And they were like, "Oh, cool, keep it because it's still getting them
Right.
interest, right?
Mm-hmm.
The interest is building
Sure.
up." And so I ended up extending those loans for about 2 years. Took about 2 years for that to all settle out, and we all made more money because I made more money because I turned the houses into lease purchases, and some of the people couldn't qualify, so I ended up taking the houses back on some of them, and I had down payments that I got.
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted to get a high enough down payment so that if they ended up walking away, I could still make the house work
Right.
again because it always paint carpet and things
Yeah.
like that. So yeah, that worked out pretty good. I was really nervous around 2009 when it, if you remember that.
Yeah, I'm
I don't know
sure.
if you were in
Mm-hmm.
the time, but that was a difficult time, and a lot of people think back and talk about those times, and we actually did well. I mean, it was it was a good time for us. It was a tough time for the industry, but we reinvented ourselves and did okay.
Yeah, I think that's the key.
So, yeah,
Through adversity, you got to redefine.
exactly. I mean, you got to think creatively. And now, I've done deals, subject to deals, done DSCR deals, which is a new to me. I've just run into this recently through the Dealmaker Society. That's how we buy businesses, DSCR type loans, and
What's that
that's
stand for?
it's a loan that the actual whatever you're getting the loan on is the qualifier. You're not qualifying as a person or as a company. What you're getting the loan on is qualifying for the loan. So it it works out really well because you can in real estate you can get a DSCR loan and it'll allow you to get a loan without a lot of qualifying. Without you don't have to come up with the tax returns and all
Mm-hmm.
that, and you can actually just qualify by the value of the house and the cash flow.
Mm.
It's all about cash flow.
Gotcha.
Is that like the non-recourse with multifamily?
It's different than that. I think there's still recourse. It's a debt service cover ratio type loan.
Gotcha.
So the cover ratio needs to be 1%. If the cover ratio is 1 or higher, then you almost immediately can get
Hmm.
approved.
And that's through
And that
banks, or who's the lender on that?
well, there's certain banks that do those types of
Mm-hmm.
loans, and certain banks that don't. The loans that we're looking for in the deal
Mm-hmm.
maker community, that's the type of loans that we're doing with the deal maker. Not every loan.
Sure.
A lot that we're going for are those types of loans, and I've found that you can also get those types of loans with real estate.
Interesting.
There's certain provisions that certain guidelines that you have to go
Mm-hmm.
with. You can't live in the property. It has to be a rental property. So it has to be an investment property. That's one of the
Mm-hmm.
qualifications. But the terms are easy.
Really?
If it cash flows, you can get a loan. Basically,
Is
is
the
what
interest
the
rate
way it works.
higher than normal?
It
Okay.
is. It's a little bit high.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a point or more higher than an SBA
Yeah.
loan or something like that. That's one
Mm-hmm.
catch, and that gives the lender a little push to do the loans
Right.
that way because they're making a little bit more
Yeah.
money. But they're evaluated by the cash flow of it could be a business loan, it could be a loan on a commercial property, it could be for up to 4
Mm-hmm.
units, a quadruplex, a duplex, triplex, but it can't be for your own personal
Right.
residence,
Gotcha.
and you can't get a quadruplex and live in one of them. Those are some of the stipulations on
Gotcha.
those types of
But
loans.
it's just a 1-to-1 cover
But
ratio, you said.
it can be that good,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah,
And what
that's
are you
super
seeing for
low.
the turnaround time on those loans? Because we know that SBA can be 4 or 5 plus months depending on the channel you go down.
I don't know that yet, but I think it's only a matter of weeks.
Wow.
Interesting.
That's fast.
Yeah, I haven't done one of that type of loan
Mm-hmm.
yet. It's a new product to me, but I'm seriously looking into it because that's something that I've been looking for that type of loan for a good bit, and I've just stumbled
Mm-hmm.
onto it
Is there a
recently.
cap on the size that they'll do?
Not that I know of. You can Google it, DSCR
Yeah, I
loans.
will.
Google it, and there'll be banks that'll come up that that have those types of loans, and I think that's something that not that many people know about.
Hmm.
I've been in real estate for 30 plus years, and that's the first time I've heard
Hmm.
about it was this week.
Yeah, definitely worth
So
checking.
that's something that I'm sure your listeners would learn from that. And that's the hardest thing about getting a commercial loan is qualifying.
Right.
The qualifications are really
Hmm.
tough. So this is an opportunity to easy to qualify loan and good terms, and they'll go out 30 years.
Really, for a property, not for a business, though, right?
I think the businesses are 25
No, that's
years.
still really long.
Yeah.
Property loans, I understand, they'll go up to 30
Hmm.
years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, worth looking into for sure. Don, I'd love to know about
Hmm.
your kind of evolution of thinking from being kind of that guy doing the flips, the one man band, kind of progressing on to maybe outsourcing your business a little bit, now looking for more ventures to purchase and kind of getting to that headspace of being a build and buy kind of guy. Sorry, buy and build kind of guy where you're going to
Yeah,
buy
because
businesses and outsource a lot of the operations. How was the evolution of thinking there?
Honestly, that's a great question. That's an awesome question. Um, I'm a little bit hard headed. I admit that, and so I don't change very easily. But really, what has made a difference in my headspace, or how my mindset, I guess is the best word for it, has been the deal maker community. And I don't know if this is a video or this is a conversation about that, but it really did help
hmm
me as far as mindset and some of the reading materials that were that are really a requirement of the community has done a tremendous amount to open my mind and to allow me to really. I hear people say work on your business, not in your business. That's a saying that
right.
went around for a
Hmm.
while. What is it, the 5 hour work
Hmm.
week? All those things that are like slogans almost that
Yeah,
to
like
sell books.
platitudes.
Like, and I don't buy into too much of that. But I can tell you what really transformed me was who, not how. And I'd got the audio book of it, and I listened to it 3 times. And I listened to it, I backed it up, listened to it again, listened to it all the way through, and I really started using those principles in my business. Right now I've got a remodeling business, I've got a flipping business, and I've got a structural repair business. We do electrical, we do just about everything in houses. And I mean, I'm proud of my company. I started it. It's called True Way Properties and Renovations, and I have 10 guys that work for me full time that are there every day. They're all of them, all the guys that work for me are cross trained. They have multiple skills. And so we do just about everything. And I've had this business for 25 years. And I just got to a point where I was stagnant. I really wasn't going anywhere. And I started really looking into the who, not how principles, like I said a minute ago. And I started thinking about it. And I found a guy in my company that was eager to do more, and he wanted to be. We haven't really had the partnership conversation yet, but we had the money conversation. So I decided to give him some profit sharing, and I'll tell you what, it lit a fire under his butt, and he is running my company now. He's running the crews. I got 4 crews. He's running all 4 crews. I talk to him a couple, 2, 3 times a day, but I don't have to be everywhere. Does invoices. He does the estimates. He collects money. He does all the stuff that I used to do. And now I'm focusing on buying businesses. I'm focusing on. I mean, I just bought I acquired an electrician's
Hmm.
license, so I'm ramping up an electrical side of TrueWay. So that's something that I'm working on that I couldn't do if I was running the
Right.
company. So all these things that I'm doing now, I couldn't do before. And I tell you what it's done for my business dollar wise is my revenue has almost doubled
Wow.
in a matter of 8 months.
Wow.
I mean
That's
that
fast.
that that's money, right? That's what we all
Hmm.
want. For the first 10 or 15 years in my business, I was so customer centric, customer focused, If anybody was unhappy, I went crazy to make them happy. You know
Sure.
what I mean. You got business. You're wanting to make a name for yourself. You want to have a good reputation. In contracting, it's hard
Yeah.
because there's a lot of contractors don't have a good reputation.
Yeah.
Makes it harder to be that guy that does everything right. And so I was focused on that and focused on that. In the last couple of years, I decided to focus on being successful, through making better money. And when I promoted the guy that I was just mentioning earlier, he started changing the cost structure. I just let him do what he wanted to do. I said, I want to see what you can do. And he raised the prices and nobody said
Hmm.
anything. I mean, we did some industry studies just by making phone calls and talking. When we raised them up a little bit too much, people said no. So we kind of found out
Sweet spot.
where we needed to be. So we're right at the top of where we should be to get the deals that
Hmm.
we want. And my pricing went up at least
Oh, wow.
30%.
How's that impacted your
And
profit?
I was a little bit afraid to do it because I don't want a customer to not be
Hmm.
happy with everything, but I wasn't making the money I should have
Hmm.
been making. So that's something that really has really helped my business tremendously. And it all came from getting out of the way. That's another one of those sayings that a lot of people say in business is get out of the way of your business,
Yeah.
right? And that's what I did. I just got out of the way. It started becoming more successful and my health is better. We have the Aura rings. I'm wearing the Aura
Hmm.
ring. My blood pressure's better. My health is better. I'm not worrying about things. So life has been a lot better since I read that book or since I did the
Hmm.
Audible. And it's not only that; it's everything. With the protege program, there's a lot of things that I mean they think of
Hmm.
everything. The more that I learn and the more that I go through the tutorials and all that, the more it's helped me realize that there's better ways to do things. I don't know everything.
Sure.
I know most things about how to fix a house.
Right.
That's the thing I know, but running a business, I felt like I knew that pretty good too. But even days when I learned how to do something different to fix a house better, it's the same thing as running the business. There's better ways to do things there too. And I'm trying to be more automated, especially on the finance side. With invoicing and payment, we do ACH payments
Hmm.
now, and that's how we pay everybody. So, a couple of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, I was meeting everybody on Friday with checks,
Yeah.
and I would have 30 or 40 checks and I'd have to meet everybody at different places and do that.
Yeah.
And I was just be a better way
Right.
to do
So much
this.
time.
I think 3 or 4 years ago, there wasn't that many people doing
Hmm.
ACH. I mean, it's fairly new, especially in the construction
Yeah.
industry. But I got that set up in my office. That saved me a day a week. So I don't meet anybody for checks
Yeah.
anymore. I don't do it. And there's things like that in business that you just have to realize that they want to get paid the second they're finished, but I don't get paid the
Right.
second I'm finished.
Yeah.
Anything. There's got to be, and you want people to get paid. They have
Sure.
families and things that bills they
Hmm.
have to pay and everything. But I've made some changes like that, and it's really
What kind of a time period are we looking at for that? From when you read the book and implemented these changes? Is a 1 year, a 2 year, or like how long of a journey is this?
eight
Wow.
months. I can tell you, it has transformed my life. I've had one other book do that for me. This was about 15 years ago. I read Rich Dad Poor
Mm.
Dad.
Yeah. Kiyosaki.
I know you guys
Hmm.
that have read it. And, I read all of his books, but Rich Dad Poor Dad really did it for me because that really hit home with me because I have a rich dad and a poor dad. I mean, I have
Yeah.
both. It was a type of book that really hit home with me, and it changed my
Mhm.
mindset on finances. And so I started thinking things differently. What's an asset? What's not an asset? And that sort of thing. And that was instrumental in my mindset at the time. And I think it's affected me ever since. And it's the same way that Who Not How is. One thing that impressed me immensely with Who Not How is the guy that I think his name's Dan Callahan, the guy that wrote the
Hmm.
book, didn't really write
Right.
it.
Yeah. So Sullivan, Dan
He had
Sullivan.
he got
Hmm.
yeah, Dan Sullivan. He got someone else
Right.
to write it.
Yeah.
The true master.
So I mean, how much more of a who not how that?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I was just like, holy cow, that this guy really does what
Mhm.
he says, and he's a real who not how. I don't take it to that that far, but eventually I hope to do
Mhm.
that. Eventually I hope to only have, conversations with people and not have to swing a hammer and, do all those things. But honestly, I like that part of the business. I like to do that, the
Yeah.
physical stuff. It keeps you in shape and all that, but I can't do that and make as good a living.
Right.
So that's
Uh,
that's really the
I
main
think one
reason.
of the metrics
Not
is
as
choice.
much now.
When you're at the stage where you can have a choice and choose what you do, then that's the real key. I think one of the valuable things that you really
Mhm.
said in there, and on two parts, was buying back your time. Firstly, with obviously getting the guy in there, and then just doing little things like stopping the checks. Your time is the resource that is most important, so
Mhm.
you're able to buy back your time a lot.
Yeah, yeah, that's absolutely right. And especially people that are really wealthy. I'm not wealthy. I mean, I have a very comfortable living. I have everything I want, everything I need, but I like to achieve. But the really wealthy people pay a lot of money to have more
Yeah.
time. More important, money.
Mhm.
And to them, when you get to a certain level, it's the most important thing that you can have. So it's like, I mean, that's why people buy private jets, so they
Yeah.
don't have to sit in
Yeah. You're
line at the.
buying time.
I've got a buddy that has a private jet, and that's what he
Mhm.
did. He did it more time with his family, and anytime he goes somewhere, he just calls his pilot, gets on his jet, and boom, he takes
Exactly.
off.
I think the way I look at it, a lot of it is like it comes down to your personal hourly rate. So when you start out, you might be $10, $15 an
Yeah,
hour. You get better and more skills, and then say you get to a place where you're $100 an hour is where you price your time. Any $10 an hour work that you do is costing you and your company $90 an hour. So you got to find other
yeah.
people to do
We were
that.
talking
Yeah,
here the other
yeah,
night.
hmm,
Remember that? That is so
yeah,
true. I mean, I think about that. I think about that a lot. And free time is what
hmm,
I want. But now that I've had a taste of it, the last 8 months, I pretty much direct my own schedule now. Customers don't
hmm,
direct my schedule, not very much. I mean, once in a while they do. But like right now, I've got 3 flips that I'm doing, and one just went on the market today, and I just bought another one about 3 weeks ago, and I had another one going up before that. And I've got crews there working and fixing everything, and I just go check on them every so often. I don't really even
hmm,
have to, but it's something that's interesting to me. So that's what it all comes down to is it's the same terminology like work on your business and not in it. That's really true, even though it's old and it's
hmm,
tired. Uh, but it really is true. I mean, when you get to a point where you can dictate what you're going to do instead of your customer dictating it, or your employees, or your subs, or whatever, whoever, however you do things, that's when I think that you can say you're doing
yeah,
okay. Take control of your time instead of the bank, the mortgage company, all the people that you have to that you're working for, like customers and all that. Once you can really get away from that and you have other people taking care of those things, then I think you in some way
hmm.
you've
Yeah.
made
I mean,
it.
that's why we sign up for being self-employed, right? Is for the freedom, or I think a lot of people do. So, like you said, until you have
Yeah.
that, what do you really have? Like
Yeah.
Kiyosaki, like
But
you might have your own business, but you might just have a job. It's not a real business.
right. Yeah, I was in the corporate world for I worked originally. My first job out of college was a German company that I was a technician, really an engineer is what they called me. That was corporate all the way. And then I went from there. I worked for Kodak, the film company, and I was in sales support. And it's a completely different world in corporate versus
Right.
what I did and what you guys do, because you're your own boss. you report to yourself, right? I mean, in
Exactly.
reality, if you have a sales meeting, it's with you and someone else, and if you set them yourself, right? You don't have a manager setting them for you, so the pressure's on in a different way, But I wouldn't change anything in my history, the way I've came up through the ranks and things like that, because I learned a tremendous amount from the corporate world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had sales training that was top notch, really really good sales training, and technical training. I had weeks and weeks of technical training that I use today. Troubleshooting things and the right ways to do that sort of thing. So I wouldn't change a thing. But yeah, it's been good. But my most fulfilling thing is to take a really crappy house and make it beautiful,
Hmm.
and that's what we do. I mean, you should see the house we just finished. The before and after pictures. It was
Is
a
that the one
dump.
that you were showing me that you got in the neighborhood from the kids?
No, that one's actually
Mm.
pretty nice. The one that the other two houses that I'm working on right now, one we just put on the market is in one of those parts of town that there's nice houses and there's some
Mm.
really rough ones all in the same neighborhood, and it's the neighborhood's changing, actively changing. And this house, both of the houses had squatters in
Ooh,
them, and they were a couple miles apart in the same general area. One had bullet holes in the front
nice
of where the trim around
decorations.
the
Yeah.
windows was,
Character.
bullet holes. And you walk in the first house, the one that we just put on the market. It was about 1,200 square foot house, and it was pretty bad. We took out the walls, gave it an open floor plan. It had beautiful hardwood floors that were in really terrible shape.
Mm.
We fixed them all up. And when you walked in the house, you could tell it was a party house because it knocked you in the face, the smell of
Mm.
weed. It was
Yeah,
very,
it's
very, very
soaked into the
strong.
walls.
Wow.
And the people that lived there were squatters, and they had to be evicted, and they were living there when I first looked at the house, and they evicted them, and then I
Mm.
bought the house. So it was one of those deals.
Wow. Yeah, it's got to
But
be pretty satisfying, to see the difference.
yeah, it was. I mean, I'm always afraid that these people are going to come back,
Right.
but they don't. I mean, people that live that way or don't really, they're not
Mm.
motivated, so they're going to take the path the
Yeah.
least resistance. But usually they don't come back and try to get even or
Yeah.
stuff like that. They usually just go and find
Right.
another house, bust out the window and get inside and live there. So it's a pretty common thing in
Mm.
certain areas. But the house turned out beautiful. I mean, we took I bought the house for. I originally made an offer for 180,000. It was about 15 minutes after it went on the market.
Wow.
It was that fast, and I made an offer. My agent put the offer together, and I said it's good for 4 hours. I knew this house
Yeah.
was underpriced, but it's good for 4 hours. I'll pay you all cash, no contingencies. We'll close in a week. I mean, that's like a deal. That's like a dream
Right.
come true for the
Hmm.
house like that. I mean, the house is in bad shape. They said, okay, we'll take it. And about 5 hours later, they came back and said, we're good with the offer, but we realized we underpriced it. And then they're like, you know, I know we're under contract. It's a binding agreement. We're not gonna. We're gonna. We need another 20,000. Basically, him hawed around about it, and I knew it was still a
Hmm.
great deal, and I knew that they could figure out a way to get out of the contract. I mean, people can. There's
Yeah.
just ways to do that, and so I said, okay, if you sign it again within an hour and it's solid, I'll give you 20,000 more. And
Hmm.
they were like, okay. So we did it. The house is on the market now. I bought it for 200. I put about 110 in it, and it's on the market, going on the market today for
Mm.
489. Five.
And how long did it take you to
So
bring it back to life?
it took
Okay.
6 months to finish it from start to finish, and I had a couple of times where no one was there
Hmm.
for a week or two, because I was busy on other things. But I mean, that's worth
Yeah.
it to get that kind of margin on
Yeah, it's
a
not
house.
bad at all.
If we get
Hmm.
that price, I mean, that's at the top of the market.
Yeah.
But it's a top of the market house now. It's beautiful. Yeah, that house it's right next to a gas line that is it's a I guess it's an area that can't be developed because there's an underground
Gotcha.
gas pipe, and it had a two chain link fences going down the left side, and then a privacy fence, and it was about 3.5 feet wide area that was just unusable because of all
Hmm.
these fences. We took them all down and put a privacy fence all the way out, so I gained about 3 feet
The
of
whole way
yard,
around.
the whole 150 feet
Wow.
long, and we gained feet
Yeah.
just by doing that. So it made the yard look a lot bigger. And little things like that. We put a deck on the back with access from the two bedrooms to the deck, which has made it really private, and sodded the
Hmm.
yard. That made it really really nice. So we do those kind of things after you're doing enough of these. I know
Right.
the things to do that get money
Yeah.
back on, and the things
How many are you
don't
up to
do.
now? How
How
many
many
fix and flips are you up to?
how
Yeah.
many have I done? Oh, I don't know,
Really?
hundreds. Yeah, I've done. I did a spreadsheet for an
Hmm.
investment bank a few years ago, and I had 60
Hmm.
on that. And I didn't go all the way back. I just went back a number of years. But they wanted to know my history, and I think I went back 10 years. So I had
Okay.
60 on there, and before that, I actually did more earlier on.
So you're well over 100.
Yeah, I've way more than 100 because I used to do a lot for investors, which I didn't
Gotcha.
own the property. I would fix them up
Hmm.
and they would flip them. So I did
Wow.
hundreds of those. And there for a while, I didn't want to tie my money up. I just wanted to go ahead and just make the
Yeah.
quick buck of fix repairs. So I did that for a while. I mean, I think one of the things that your listeners could get out of my history is being able to and knowing how to change as
Mm.
the market changes. I mean, you have
Yeah.
to do that. That's what's kept me from. I've been doing it for 30 something years, so the market has changed a lot of times, and it's good to stay up on where things are and where things are headed. And when the market changes, you have to
Right.
change with it. It'll leave you behind, and you could be broke. You could be, in bankruptcy and things like that. I've never had bankruptcy. I've only had two flips in my whole career that I
Oh
lost
wow.
money on. Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
that's
I'll
quite an
say. Yeah,
achievement there
that's
because
impressive.
I know lots and lots of people
Hmm.
that have
Or they'll
lost
make
money,
nothing. They make like
and
like break even. Yeah.
yeah, I had one I broke even almost down
Hmm.
to the penny. I had one I lost thirty
Mm.
thousand on. That was in
Yeah.
2009, and the value went down so much. It was just a bad
Yeah.
flip. I had to come out, but I
Hmm.
paid everybody. I mean, I paid everybody that
30
I
grand
owed.
of tuition, right? I'm sure you 30 grand of
What's that?
tuition. I'm sure you learned a ton, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah. That was a big learning experience. I learned a lot on that one. Things that I'll never
Hmm.
do again. But in reality, the biggest learning experience was that you have to watch the
Mm.
market. Because that was when the market crashed. It was right when it crashed, and it was crazy the amount of value that went
Yeah.
down on that house. And I went from making 100,000 to losing
Wow.
30 within 2 months. And another little story that I can tell you that happened is when I was working at my corporate job. I knew I was on the way out, so I started looking for
Mm.
houses and stuff. I knew I wasn't going to be at the job much longer. I was there for 10 years, had a very successful time there. I was in the top 5% of sales, so I just knew I wasn't
Yeah.
going to be there much longer. So I bought this house in the same neighborhood my mother always sold me houses in, and fixed it up. I bought it for like 80,000 or 85, 90,000, something like that. Fixed it up, did all the work myself. I had one guy helping me, and that was in 2007. And I found a buyer for the house. I sold it for 420,000, and ended up making about 80 something thousand in profit. But at the closing table, the loan that the people got to buy the house had 3 mortgages. I'd never seen a loan like that before in my life. They had a first, a second, and a
Wow.
third mortgage closing on the
Mhm.
same closing with different banks. And I was just like, I sat back and I was like, guys, this doesn't look right to me. I've sat in this chair a lot of times over the years. I've never seen
Yeah.
anything like this. And I'm telling you, a week later, that bank went out
Mm.
of business. It was one of the first to
Yeah.
die in the crisis, the real estate crisis. It was one of the first banks. And I'm glad I sold that house when I did,
Right.
because if a week later,
Yeah.
who knows what would have happened? Or 2 weeks later, who knows what would have happened? And that was my first flip that I did when I started doing it full time. It was my full
Oh
time
boy.
job was
Yeah.
flipping.
Talk about timing.
And I was hard, like I said, I'm hard headed. After that house, even knowing the bank did that, I bought 8 more houses. Just I was getting good deals, and that's when I'm going back to what I was saying earlier, how I had to lease purchase the houses and all that. That was right
Gotcha.
around that time when that. So I kept buying houses. There were such good deals out there that I just couldn't help myself.
Right. Right.
Had to
I
buy.
love it. Cool. Well, we're coming up to time here, Don. I'm sure we could chat about this all day easily.
Yeah.
But we'll have to do it again. But I appreciate you coming on. This has been fun. I really love learning because you have a wealth of experience on the real estate side. Like you said, 30 plus years, and you've done a lot of reps. It's not just like 1 or 2
Yeah.
years repeated over and over again. You have a lot of reps. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate your guys' interest in Forrest and Jaron, and I hope you guys are successful in whatever you do.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, we'll have to get together again. This is fun. I always appreciate hearing from you.
Okay.
Thanks, Don.
Take care.
Appreciate it, Don. Talk soon, bud.
See ya.